Hello and welcome back to another Watch My Garden Grow update. So I normally always record my garden grow updates on Saturdays, and then I add them to be out at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. We are going to have some very nasty weather tomorrow. So I thought, why not, while it's gorgeous outside today, go ahead and do the garden update today. So it is actually Friday. Let's look at some of the other things that I've had growing. So here is my hanging tomato plant. And it continues to get stronger. And they're weeding themselves out a little bit. Still no tomatoes yet. And the pumpkins are officially gone. I just went through and there is not one live plant or leaf yet. So those are completely done. But we did have, remember we planted this cauliflower plant, and we were going to let it go ahead and go to seed and see what it does. So that's where it's at now. It doesn't really look a lot different. These little guys here are starting to sprout out a little bit. And here is the store-bought celery stalk that I started, and I actually have another one to replant, so I may do that later today. And here is where we threw the little remaining pepper seedlings that I didn't think were really going to do anything, and a couple of them have actually popped out. So this was sort of, the idea behind this was just sort of so that nothing went to waste, just kind of having fun and experimenting with what will grow, and then also knowing that, you know, maybe the critter will come over here and eat some of this stuff and leave my other stuff alone. So let's look at the other stuff. Lemon balm looks great. Beautiful, beautiful. The potato plant continues. I've got to actually back up now to get the whole thing in the camera shot. It continues to get bigger and bigger and flower. And one interesting thing is that I noticed was on this plant here. Oh, one of them did. Oh, no, it didn't get eaten. Okay, so here we have potato fruit. I did not know that potatoes had fruit. So after the flower blooms, it produces these little round fruits, which are very poisonous. So we don't want to eat those. Carrots are getting greener and stronger, and critter has still not gone into that, so I'm very happy about that. I have left the cauliflower here, I have left the cabbage here because I was just giving it something to eat. It was even eating the leaves that were all covered in the paprika, so I don't know what I can say about that. Here is my kale. I have had 3 nights in a row I have actually used the little baby kale leaves on my sandwiches. And so that's been exciting. I'm glad that it's still doing well and being undisturbed. Here, I didn't do anything with this, but obviously somebody picked this up and put it there. So looks like there's another little... Anyway, so I got this one onion plant that's still trying to survive. And I got this one pea plant that's trying to survive. And the one tomato that was left over from when we did the peppers. So... is that a seedling? I think that might be a seedling popping out. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet. The celery is looking nice. The center leaves are starting to come out. So that's nice. We haven't planted anything in here. Here is my vertical garden. And it's been raining, so I haven't watered a lot of stuff, but this dries out quicker than the rest, so I might need to put a little bit of water in there today. But look at how big these stems are compared to all the other ones that I've planted. I find that very interesting. I'm not really sure why, because, you know, we planted these the same time as we planted the other ones, and maybe it's just because it's less crowded and it has more room to grow. This is my spinach bucket. I do see lots of little things popping up. I'm hoping they're spinach and not weeds. That would be really nice. And here is the regular lettuce that I planted. And you can see it's actually getting its secondary leaves on it. So that's going to keep growing. Happy about that. This is still an empty bucket. Here's our seeds from the store-bought sweet peppers. And so they're continuing to perk up and not be disturbed. Now the tomato plants are not ripening as fast as they were, and I do come out, and even when I see them start to turn, I've been taking them so that the squirrel doesn't, which I have had a couple little instances where I have seen the squirrel. I saw you running from my garden. I know it's you. Just please stay away from my lettuce. Where'd you go? There you are. Hello, critter. How are you? How's your tummy? Okay, so I just totally missed, just jumped completely over my head into the bamboo tree. I've seen the squirrel and talked to them, so yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay, and this is, oh, this one's even bigger. So these are for, like, I showed a picture, I have a picture of this one, see, it started to get eaten, but he hasn't come over and messed with them since then. That was a couple days ago I saw that it had munched on that. So that's kind of it for the garden. Not too much of an update for the garden, so I think I will take an opportunity to take a moment and talk about the bamboo, like I said I was going to do. Okay, so before we moved to where we are now, we lived somewhere else where we also had about 1.5 acres of property, and we had a friend who had a bamboo farm. So what we had was, we had like 10 different bamboos planted all over our property. We had some exotic black bamboo, we had all kinds of stuff. So what was great about that is that when we left and we moved, we learned what it was, which plants were good to have and which plants weren't necessarily good to have. And what we decided for our new house and property was the minor amenus. And that's the one that we stuck with. And it grows nice, big, and strong. But you can see it doesn't spread. The new ones come out right next to the other ones. So eventually it slowly is getting wider. When we first planted these over 10 years ago, these were not big plants. We started off small, and it's taken 10 years to get to this point. They go through a cycle in the winter, and they drop leaves everywhere. In fact, our last property, we hardly had any grass left by the time that we, oh look, I get air plants for my bird cage. Okay, sorry, distracted. Yeah, it just, you know, you can see how that is, but you know, that's just part of it. Here we go. Now these are much fuller because during, I think it was Irma, we had so much rain and winds, and we're pretty sure we had a small tornado probably, or tornadic activity come through, because it, you know, brought down the back fence, and it brought over basically a lot of these bamboo. They just toppled right over. But even though these don't spread, it's important that if you put these on your property, that you leave a little bit more room. This is our neighbor here, and he has a very nice manicured, and you won't find any leaves or anything on his lawn except where our fence line is. So we do our best to try to keep this side trimmed. But I would definitely keep that in mind, that the leaves will kind of blow over. and you can see how big that they do get. Again, that took 10 years to get that big. So give yourself a little extra room that maybe you wouldn't even have, and you'll see that here on this fence line. Here. So that obviously there's a lot more room here from the other side of it. And that's much better spacing there. So, yeah, we love our bamboo. Love the sound that it creates. You always get a little bit of that rainforest feel, and when it's really storming, it can be fun to sit on the back porch. And then you can see again here how they really do, they lose their leaves during this time. And then these two also were two that we had to. And here you can really see the difference between the two plants. These two had toppled over. That one may have actually been the biggest. And yeah, so here's one that we had to cut, and then here's one that we didn't. And you can see the difference there of how the leaves just grow up at the top. So my suggestion is, if you want to use them as a border, make sure to plant them far enough away from your fence. If you want to let them get super, super tall and you don't have any power lines or anything to worry about, that's great. If you want to keep them sort of short and bushy, then start trimming them when they're smaller. Because once they get bigger, it can become a very hard task and very expensive if you decide to have somebody else do it. So that is sort of my advice on the bamboo. And again, the minor amenus is the ones that we only one that we have now. And yeah, we've been really happy with it. And I hope you enjoyed this. And don't forget to come back next week to watch my garden grow. We'll see you real soon.